Hello there. I wanted to start off the new year with something special. And today, I wanted to start off my new series called The Jedi Archives, where we basically talk about many Jedi throughout the entirety of the Jedi Order, their history, what they were up to, and their basic history as a Jedi throughout the entirety of their lifespan. So today, we are going to be starting off the Jedi Archive series by talking about the one, the only Anakin Skywalker, and how the Jedi Order actually failed Anakin from the very beginning, how they basically didn't believe in him, how they didn't give him the benefit of the doubt, and how they basically denied his training just up until the point where Obi-Wan Kenobi basically said that he was going to train him regardless of whether or not the Jedi Council was going to allow him to become a Jedi. So without further ado, here we go. But first, as always, we have to start with a little bit of a breakdown. Anakin Skywalker was found on the planet of Tatooine by Qui-Gon Jinn, who was protecting Padme Amidala from the clutches of the Trade Federation sometime at about 32 BBY. Anakin Skywalker met Qui-Gon Jinn, and Qui-Gon Jinn deduced that he was Force sensitive because of his ability to pilot pod racers, and it basically all came to a head whenever he discovered that A, Anakin didn't have a father, and it was just a miracle of a birth. And he also figured out, because of a midichlorian count, that Anakin Skywalker had a midichlorian count of over 20,000, which was even higher than Yoda's, which obviously meant that he was a Force-sensitive individual, but also could mean that he possibly could be the chosen one. Immediately after figuring this out, Qui-Gon Jinn went all in on trying to acquire Anakin Skywalker, trying to free him and taking him to Coruscant so he could be trained in the arts of the Jedi. He then gambled on his life. He gambled on Anakin Skywalker being able to pilot a pod racer, and within moments, he was free. He was going with Qui-Gon Jinn to Coruscant, and he was doing the tests necessary to become a Jedi by basically guessing pictures on a screen without looking at it. The Jedi Council then deduced that Anakin Skywalker was, in fact, a very powerful Force sensitive, but they didn't want to train him because he was too old, and mainly because he already had many connections and many emotional attachments, one of them most likely being considered his mother, and the other being Padme Amidala, which we will get into a lot later on down the line. But either way, Anakin Skywalker was too old to join the Jedi Order, so Qui-Gon Jinn immediately took it upon himself to make Anakin Skywalker his Padawan learner, saying that Obi-Wan Kenobi was already basically ready to join the Jedi trials and to actually become a Jedi Knight. Unfortunately, the tutorship of Anakin Skywalker by the hand of Qui-Gon Jinn would not actually come to pass, as Anakin Skywalker would then become the apprentice of Obi-Wan Kenobi after Obi-Wan Kenobi seemingly killed Maul after Qui-Gon Jinn was killed by Maul. This then put Anakin Skywalker in care of Obi-Wan Kenobi because Obi-Wan, regardless of the Jedi Council's opinion, was going to train him whether they liked it or not, or whether or not he was going to be a Jedi or not. So the Jedi Council basically said that he could train Anakin Skywalker, but they did fear for his future because they sensed emotion and fear inside of a 9-year-old who literally just got deadlifted off of his planet and thrown into the wider galaxy, and who was thrown in front of the most powerful Force sensitives in the entirety of the known Star Wars galaxy. But despite everything, Anakin Skywalker eventually became a Jedi, and he was the Padawan of Obi-Wan Kenobi, but things were not really great for a long while. Anakin Skywalker felt like everybody resented him for numerous amount of reasons. For one, he was way too old to join the Jedi Order according to the Jedi Council members. He was a slave, so he was obviously picked on by many of the individuals inside of the Jedi Order, including many of the younglings who had been there for years, while he had only been there for a couple of months and he was a natural at using the Force and lightsaber combat. He felt like he was resented by Obi-Wan Kenobi because Qui-Gon Jinn took more effective measures and care into trying to train Anakin Skywalker to become a Jedi, rather than put any effort into Obi-Wan Kenobi for the last amount of time of his life. And he was also being manipulated by Palpatine, who was showing him literally everything having to do with the entirety of the Republic and the Jedi Order, and literally everything on having to do with the entirety of everything happening in the galaxy. So while also being resented by the Jedi Order, resented by all the Jedi inside of the Jedi Order, resented by Obi-Wan Kenobi, and being manipulated by Palpatine, things were not really going uphill for Anakin Skywalker at that time. Just about 10 years had passed by since Anakin Skywalker became the apprentice of Obi-Wan Kenobi, and now he finally had his assignment, his first ever solo assignment to protect Padme Amidala. Padme Amidala, at this point in time, at about 22 BBY, effectively had multiple assassination attempts put on her life because of her position against the Trade Federation and the Confederacy of Independent Systems during the time of the near beginning of the Clone Wars. Anakin was basically assigned to her to protect her, to escort her to Naboo, and to make sure that she was completely fine and that she wasn't assassinated on again. But this unfortunately led to the two of them immediately falling in love and having a weird relationship where the two of them were basically hiding their relationship from the entirety of the galaxy, and Anakin Skywalker basically infatuated with the idea of Padme Amidala, basically forced her into a secret marriage, into a secret relationship, which ultimately caused the two of them to have to hide their lies to literally everybody throughout the entirety of the galaxy. Anakin Skywalker and Padme Amidala then got married in secret on Naboo shortly after the Battle of Geonosis and the beginning of the Clone Wars, and Anakin was assigned to be alongside Obi-Wan Kenobi for the first maybe month or so of the Clone Wars, until he finally got his new position. He was made a Jedi Knight, made a Jedi General, and was made the General of the 501st Legion, and he officially got his own leading position during the Clone Wars, as well as his own new apprentice by the name of Ahsoka Tano. Over the course of the next 2.5 years, Anakin Skywalker led the 501st Legion, basically taught his own apprentice, and was battling Count Dooku, General Grievous, Asajj Ventress, and Admiral Trench, as well as several other droid commanders, mercenaries, bounty hunters, etc., throughout the entirety of the time of the actual Clone Wars itself. He taught Ahsoka Tano everything that he basically knew, and up until the point where Ahsoka Tano was then framed for the bombing of the Jedi Temple, he basically stood by her every step of the way until she finally left the Jedi Temple after she was falsely accused of terrorism and thrown into federal prison. After which, Anakin Skywalker basically questioned everything that the Jedi Order was doing. He was questioning literally everything about the Republic, and he was questioning everything except for one person, and that was Palpatine himself. Up until the point of 19 BBY, just as the Clone Wars was coming to a close, Palpatine was then captured by General Grievous, thrown onto the Invisible Hand. Obi-Wan Kenobi and Anakin Skywalker invaded the Invisible Hand. Anakin Skywalker killed Count Dooku. They exited the ship after crash landing it onto Coruscant after General Grievous fled, and Anakin Skywalker was made the hero of the day because he managed to save Palpatine from the clutches of Count Dooku, who he then killed. This is where the true manipulations of Palpatine actually start, because Palpatine, over the course of this entire 13-year span, had basically manipulated Anakin Skywalker in literally every way, shape, and form. But now was the point where, after having no apprentice of his own, Palpatine would really start digging into Anakin's brain and force imaging visions of the future to make him think that Padme was going to die of childbirth, and he effectively put it in Anakin's brain that he could teach him the ways of the Sith and teach him how to save Padme from dying at childbirth, thus causing Anakin Skywalker to turn to the dark side, betray the Jedi Order, cut off Mace Windu's hand, invade the Jedi Temple during Order 66, and murder literally everybody inside, including the younglings. But yet, after Order 66 and Operation Nightfall, Anakin Skywalker's work was not yet done. To officially end the Clone Wars, Anakin Skywalker then went to the planet of Mustafar and murdered the entirety of the hierarchy of the Confederacy of Independent Systems, murdering Newt Gunray and the entirety of the Trade Federation organization, and murdering everybody in the Techno Union, the intergalactic banking clans, and literally every single organization that was affiliated with the Confederacy of Independent Systems, ordering everybody to shut down all their droid factories, and thus putting an end to the Clone Wars by not only killing all of the Jedi, but also killing everyone affiliated with the main hierarchy of the Confederacy of Independent Systems, and making sure that there was no one to stand up against Palpatine. This officially then led to Anakin Skywalker facing off against Obi-Wan Kenobi, Anakin getting his other arm and his two legs cut off, being set on fire, being slow roasted in a boiling lake of lava before being found by Palpatine and thrown into the black suit that we now know as Darth Vader. And thus, immediately after that moment, Anakin Skywalker would be no more, replaced by Darth Vader. And according to official government records of the Empire, Anakin Skywalker would be gunned down by many of the clone troopers of the 501st Legion after Anakin Skywalker died protecting the younglings from many of the actual clone troopers that sought to kill the entirety of the Jedi. And it wouldn't be until 25 years later, during the Battle of Endor at about 4 ABY, that Anakin Skywalker would finally reel back, go up against Palpatine, and throw him off the side of the railing of the Death Star, officially killing Palpatine, bringing an end to the Sith, and making it to where Vader and Palpatine would die on the Death Star, as well as Anakin Skywalker after he took off his mask to look into his own son's eyes for the first time and finally die. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Make sure you hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, do everything that it is that you need to do. And I will see you guys later on in the next video with the Jedi Archive series. We might talk about Obi-Wan Kenobi. Who knows? Goodbye.